Picture this. You describe the report you need in one plain English sentence. Under 90 seconds, a printable PDF is looking back at you. Branded header, live numbers, ready to print. This is it. Not a mock-up and not a demo reel. A real multi-section report built from one typed description laid out by Apache Velocity and rendered by a real PDF engine. We will come back to every piece of it. Here is the roadmap. The gap that dashboards never close. How a description becomes a document. How the system shows its work. The moment you fix a layout with a screenshot. Saving and reloading. Then one pipeline, 3 very different outputs. Section 1. The gap that dashboards do not close. A dashboard answers a question, but a document is how that answer gets handed to somebody else. The accounts receivable team does not want a profit margin scatter plot. They want an invoice. Operations does not want a heat map of order volume. They want a packing summary. Finance does not want a donut chart of revenue by region. They want a quarterly statement that they can email to a CFO and print on letterhead. So every organization that ships a BI tool eventually rebuilds the same report templates by hand. Crystal Reports, SSRS, Jasper, Servoy's own Velocity Report plugin. The shape of that work has not changed in 20 years. An analyst writes the SQL. A developer hand codes the layout. Somebody else owns the printer-safe CSS. 3 weeks later, the customer gets their first PDF. Every change request starts the loop again. Now, flip it. You type a description, and you get a multi-section template. When the layout is not right, you attach a screenshot and just say so, instead of filing another ticket. Section 2. How a description becomes a document. Say you ask for the top 10 customers by revenue over the last 3 months. 5 stages stand between that sentence and a printed page. Here is the actual pipeline, straight from the project. The description enters on the left. HTML and PDF come out on the right. In between sit schema retrieval, section planning, SQL, template generation, and rendering. Stage 1 is schema retrieval. Out of 561 columns, where should this report even look? A vector database called QDRANT maps your everyday business words onto the right database views. Stage 2 is where a report gets its personality. The planner picks up to 8 sections, and it chooses each one from 7 layout hints: header, address block, metadata grid, line item table, summary, detail block, footer. An invoice gets a header, an address block, a metadata grid, line items, a summary, and a footer. A statement gets a different mix entirely. A summary report gets fewer sections and bigger text. The structure follows the question. Stage 3 writes the SQL, one validated query per data-bound section. Then, Stage 4 generates a single XHTML template that knits every one of those sections together with velocity bindings. Then it renders 2 ways from the same template. Apache Velocity, through a pure Python engine called Airspeed, produces the HTML preview. WheezyPrint turns that same template into the PDF. Now look at the timings underneath. Schema, 1/3 of a second. Planning, 3 seconds. SQL, 15. The template, 12. Validation and render together, barely more than 1. A real run lands under 90 seconds, start to finish. Section 3. Show your work. A report that prints the wrong total is worse than no report at all. And trust, the AI is not a verification strategy. So every data-bound section in the report carries its own SQL query, and every one of them is visible. This is the actual disclosure panel. 1 entry per section, expandable, each with a copy button. That is real TSQL against a view called _v sales summary. A skeptical user can copy it, run it in their own tools, and check the number themselves. An AI tool that cannot show its work is a black box. The template gets checked too, in 3 layers. Layer 1 is post-processing. Claude writes HTML that works fine in a browser, which is not the same thing as well-formed XHTML. So we rewrite the known offenders silently. Bare break tags get closed. Images get their self-closing slash. Display flex and display grid become display block because WheezyPrint's box model is not browser compatible there. Transforms and animations get stripped entirely because Print does not have them. Layer 2 is hard. The template goes through an XHTML parser, and any parse error feeds straight back into the next generation attempt, bounded at 3 tries. In current testing, that safety net rarely fires. Layer 3 is soft. One scanner hunts for CSS properties that WheezyPrint will silently ignore. Another confirms every section reference in the template actually matches a section in the report. The report still renders, you just know what was wobbly. Section 4. Tell it what is wrong, or show it. This is the part that makes natural language reporting actually earn its name. First, 2 preview tabs. The HTML tab renders through Velocity in under a second inside a sandboxed frame. That is the cheap path, and that is where you iterate. The PDF tab is the expensive path. WheezyPrint has to load fonts, lay out the CSS, calculate every page break, and embed the glyphs. So it renders lazily, only when you actually ask for it. So you iterate in HTML, you certify in PDF, you download when you are ready. 2 tabs, 2 cost profiles, and an interface that lets you feel the difference. Now here is the part I actually want to show you. Users do not describe layout the way developers describe layout. They say, move that thing over there. They circle a region on their screen with a finger. So the feedback panel takes an image, attach a screenshot of the current draft, up to 5 megabytes, and it ships to Claude's Vision API alongside your sentence. The model can see exactly what you are seeing. So picture the problem. The totals block is sitting off on the left, and the grand total does not stand out at all. You take a screenshot of exactly that, attach it, and you type, make the totals block right aligned, and bold the grand total. The answer streams back token by token, and it ends in one button, apply changes. The model rewrites the entire template, so you get to read the response and decide before anything moves. Seconds later, the layout is fixed. Same data, same query, totals right aligned, grand total bold, without a developer, without a template file, and without one line of CSS. Section 5. Save, reload, regenerate. A report that took 90 seconds to build the first time should take under 2 seconds to open the next time. Saving stores the template, the report spec, the per-section SQL, and the section data, alongside a name, a category, and the original description you typed. Loading restores all of it, with no AI calls at all. Regenerate is the interesting button. A saved report holds the AI's output, not the database state. So, loading a 6-month-old invoice replays that template against 6-month-old numbers. Regenerate clears the cache, reruns the whole pipeline against the live database, and hands you the same report with today's data. If the prompt rules improved since you saved it, you pick those up for free. Section 6. 1 pipeline, 3 outputs. The honest question about any third project is, how much of this actually had to be built from scratch? The answer is right in this figure. The schema retrieval, the TSQL prompt rules, the post-processing fixes, the retry loop, the 3-tier Redis cache. All of it is identical across every project in this series. What changes per output type is small. The planner's vocabulary, 6 cards or up to 8 sections. The generator's target syntax, a chart spec or XHTML. Then the final renderer. That is the whole delta. 3/4 of the work in a natural language data product sits in that middle, getting the SQL right against a real schema and building a retry loop you trust. Solve that once, and a new output type is a project week, not a project month. Which brings us to the line I would leave on the wall. Natural language layers compound across output types. Solve the hard middle once, and every output after that is a planner and a renderer, not a research program. Think about what that does to a report backlog. Invoices, statements, packing summaries, quarterly statements. Every one of them becomes a description and a chat window instead of a ticket and a sprint. This pipeline points at whatever your business has to put on paper. So if your team is still hand-coding report templates and still waiting weeks for a first PDF, message me. This is exactly the pipeline I build for clients. Here is the question I will leave you with. How many reports are sitting in your backlog right now, waiting on a developer who could be doing something a lot harder?